I'll let you know when to start because your presentation is going to be timed. But if you are ready to go technically, there are a few announcements I need to make. First of all, I'll introduce myself and have our judges introduce themselves briefly without saying what colleges or cities that they are in. My name is Intisar Duram. I am an engineer and I am semi-retired, still working in the engineering industry. And we'll go to Lynn.
Hi, I'm Lynn Johnson, and I'm an insurance broker. I've worked in the insurance industry for over 40 years and not yet retired.
Okay. Okay, Timothy, good to see you again. Timothy,
sorry about the delay. I'm a little bit new to some of this technology here. I'm used to using Microsoft instead of an Apple as I'm using, but I'm Tim McKernan. I am a retired U.S. Army colonel, did about 26 years in the military as a logistics officer, did foreign military sales, and I'm currently an owner of a Airbnb business, as well as I have a small catering company that I run. And it's good to be here.
Lawrence?
Good evening from where I am. My name is Lauren Marchese. I actually work in the marketing field for a healthcare company. So delighted to be here with all of you.
Thank you. And Michelle?
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm a financial analyst. And Timothy, I actually just put forward a package for logistics with the Navy.
Always work, huh?
Well, I won't hold the Navy against you.
No, we won't. So with that said, now that you know the judges, I would like to let you know, again, to remind you again that this is part of a competition and you as a team taking on a fictional business identity and assigning a fictional identity to the judges as well. Please make sure everyone knows who you are as you are speaking, as you're doing your presentation, and who they are as well. You know, if you're talking to the board, let us know if that is the case. You have 25 minutes to describe the legal, financial, and ethical dimensions of the problem and to recommend solutions that passes muster on all three fronts. During this time, teams will be uninterrupted, we promise. When you are finished, we have a 10 to 15 minute Q&A session that while we are still assuming that fictional identity you have given us, and after that, if you like, we would love to give you some feedback on how the presentation went, etc. So again, I'll be keeping time. So whenever you're ready, let me know, and I will start your 25-minute clock.
Sure, I'll start. My name is Udit Gupta, and our team is from XLRI-Xavier. We're from India, and we have just completed our MBA. Four of us. The fifth person who is about to join, he's an engineer, and yes. So we have all completed it in general management area. Prior to pursuing my master's, I was a teacher, a physics teacher, and now hopefully I can join in the corporate, and I'll let others now say for themselves.
Hello, myself Krishna Kashyap. So I come from the social development sector. Before doing my MBA, I have 6 years of work experience, and I am also a student of general management program, and looking forward for the presentation. Thank you.
You ready to start?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yeah. Hope I'm audible. Yes. Uh, so the topic which our team G07 took is about the rag pickers. The rag pickers at forefront, transforming the rural waste management. So this is done as a pilot by GreenCycle Innovations Limited. So to bring context to the presentation, I'm just going to tell you about the rag pickers in our country and the scenario. So uh, the most important thing is that in an informal economy, rag pickers, through this presentation, we want to show that how they intend to work as a catalyst for the circular economy model, which we tend to prescribe in this particular presentation. So generally, we understand that there is increased plastic waste that is being generated in the world, and India is no exception to that. As a developing country, we have more than 10 million tons of waste which is being generated, at least in one particular province or a state itself. So effective waste management solutions and the proper recycling are indispensable for tackling this particular plastic waste. And to begin with the literary definition of rag pickers, these people are for part of the informal economy who collect the rags or recyclable materials that can be sold for money. So what we intend to speak is that rag picking entails sorting, collecting, and also selling of these particular waste, which are found in various dump sites, waste processing sheds, river banks, and also even in our residential areas. So which is primarily consists of plastics, cardboard, tin, aluminum, brass, copper, so on and so forth. Coming to capital itself, New Delhi, India, we have more than 3 lakh rag pickers in one city itself. And almost in another city like Mumbai, which is the financial capital of the country, there are more than 3 lakhs. So almost more than 12 lakh or 1.2 million are under age of 14, which is still not at all good for the country or for the world in general, because they constitute the child labor and they have very deplorable conditions. So coming to the social economic status, we find them mostly the rag pickers are illiterate and they have very bad literacy rates also. They hail from impoverished backgrounds, engaging in low wage and non-farming jobs. So these people typically undertake menial and non-agricultural work. So their livelihood often caters to the needs of large families. So their social economic background is something which is they come from poor, vulnerable background, and their family size and the environment itself shapes their narrative to do these kind of menial jobs. So through this presentation, we want to show that how these particular rag pickers form an integral part of this rural solid waste management ecosystem. So the GreenCycle Innovations Limited is trying to bring these rag pickers into the circular economy, and how they will contribute and how sustainable livelihood generation happens through this particular integration of rag pickers into the formal economic system. So coming to the problem statement, so the issue, as I've just mentioned, this study aims to explore the strategies for integrating them into the formal economy, and it will also focus on collaboration between the regulatory bodies which are present in India, particularly for the waste management, and also how rag pickers can enter into that particular collaboration so that they can manage the waste efficiently, and also it helps in promoting the inclusive growth. By inclusion, I mean rag pickers will be formally integrated into the economy. So what is the geographical scope of this particular study? So what we have taken is, we have taken a province in India, which is Telangana. So in Telangana, we have a district. In India, generally the administrative setup is like there is a state or a province, and then we have a sub-province which is called as a district. So the geographical scope of this entails 480 villages across 21 blocks within a district of Telangana, India. So we seek to analyze the waste management interventions as a company wherein rag pickers can contribute in the circular economy. So what is the approach that as a company we have adopted is, we have have entered into memorandum of understanding, or what we call as public-private civil society partnership in this particular district, where the organization GreenCycle's innovation anchors the waste management program through cascaded training approach. So this is particularly an agreement with the district administration responsible for waste collection. We get into the MOU and we try to execute this waste management program by training through a cascaded approach. So what this partnership focuses, the partnership majorly focuses on providing the information, education, and communication material as well as training for the government officials. We call them as Swachagrahis, and also the village level workers whosoever involved in collection of waste. By collection of waste, there are several regulatory bodies and there are village water and sanitation committees which are involved in collection of waste from the households. So we try to integrate the self-help groups, the sanitation committees, and also bring the Ragpickers into these particular aggregation. So what we do in this cascaded model, we train these people through a cascaded approach where the government officials, the panchayat, as well as the Ragpickers are trained in a phased manner about source segregation, about composting, about the use of e-collection, and also how the waste generation, the dump to the landfill is reduced by training. It also includes the design tools to monitor the key process indicators and performance outcomes of this particular initiative. So the Ragpickers will be provided the responsibility of disposing the plastic and the non-saleable MLP. MLP is the multi-layered plastic. So what we try to do is that we have given training to these particular Ragpickers for 2 years, and we tried analyzing this particular program post completion, where we try to interview 774 households of these particular 21 blocks, and we try to get the understanding of how we been to execute this program. So out of this, we found that 70% of the villages were not selling the recyclable waste and the disposing the waste in more inappropriate manner, which is hazardous to the ecosystem. So what we intend to bring is that there is a scope for intervention where Ragpickers can be introduced to this program. So this particular thing, I would like to emphasize about the salaries also received by the waste collectors in the district. It is just 8,500 rupees Indian currency, INR. So the data here clearly shows that 82% of the respondents mentioned that waste collector is not visiting the households at the scheduled time. So there is need for more waste collectors to collect the waste at every household. And 18% of the respondents mentioned that they were not present when the waste collection happens. So what we intend to bring from this data is that there's a scope for Ragpickers to fill the void in the formal regular waste management ecosystem. So waste management ecosystem has multiple institutional players, but still there is a scope for Ragpickers, because we find that 82% of the respondents in the district don't have the waste collection people who are collecting the waste at the scheduled time. So this is the possible scope that we intend to bring in through this by integrating the Ragpickers as a waste collectors across the district, and propose a plan for extended producer responsibility. So this is EPR, which we call it as an extended responsibility, where the waste generated is brought again back to the system. So the second aspect is to bring them into the formal employment, which provides sustainable income for the Ragpickers. And third is track the multi-layered plastic and saleable plastic by calculating the dump and the waste processing shed. So the idea is to ensure that the dump is minimal in this particular entire gamut of operation. Then Ragpickers, based on the aggregation capacities, should themselves form collectives, which eventually be the vendors for the waste recycling, thus play a key role in the waste management ecosystem. So coming to the core aspects, so what we intend to show is that EPR is something which is now mandatory in India, where the corporates and the government get into MOU, where they will be trying to recycle the waste that is generated in the self-government, the local self-government bodies, the LSG bodies. So here multi-layered plastic, which is non-recyclable and non-energy recoverable, should be phased out from the particular panchayats. So what we try to do is we try to improve the environmental aspects of the product by extending the responsibilities of the manufacturing and the manufacturer who is responsible for generation of this particular plastic. So there is a scope for Ragpickers to intervene in this district waste collection system by contributing to the extended producer responsibility. So now passing on something to succession to others is called cascade. So cascade training in this context is passing the learnings that we have accrued through trainings on succession to others. So this training is imparted across the 21 blocks, which I have mentioned in the initial stage of the presentation. So where we try to train the Ragpickers in the project intervention area. So how we are going about in this particular cascaded training approach to Ragpickers. So we try to bring them Ragpickers into the regulatory waste collection body, and we are transforming them as village level workers who collect the waste from households. So these particular Ragpickers, who are now the village level workers, would go door to door, generate awareness on effective solid waste management. So the idea is to talk about composting, to talk about the waste that is generated at the household level, try to segregate the wet waste and dry waste. And these particular Ragpickers will be the enablers for bringing that particular nudge in the waste management ecosystem. So the behavior change is now captured through 4 particular aspects, the 4 key indicators. One is the increased number of households that those are segregating the waste, increasing households composting the wet waste, and also efficient management through better waste collecting practices, and also regular waste assessment to reduce, reuse, and recycle the waste. So these particular indicators will show that there is a nudge due to integration of Ragpickers into the waste management ecosystem. So this particular process is carried on where the expert agencies, the civil society, along with our organization, try to bring a change in the solid waste management in the rural areas of Telangana, which is province in India. Now let us see what happens after 2 years after the particular training, and also succession of trainings which are provided to the Ragpickers. So having trained, so this is something which is talking about the impact of the training. Having trained these Ragpickers through cascaded approach along with our company, as I just said, now we have monitored the project progress across the 3 parameters. So the universe, the total universe is the targeted households, which is 2.26 lakh population. And we have considered like the percentage of households segregating waste has increased tremendously from 55,182 to 93,199, which is a substantial increase in the intervention. So we can see clearly in the graph, like the first year of intervention impact and also the second year. So there is an exponential increase in this. As well as we try to analyze the households who are doing this home composting, and we find that 70% of the households are doing the composting, and also the user fee. So this can be seen here in the composting scenario also, where we can see that the intervention and the impact are really substantiated into the increase in the composting aspects in the particular district. And user fee is the waste tax, as we call, because it is the responsibility of the household who generates the waste to provide particular tax to the government or the regulatory body. So we find that people are becoming responsible in the waste management through this effective intervention, as the Ragpickers have evolved in more effective communication and dissemination of waste management. People have become more responsible for the waste that is being generated. So we find that the people who are contributing for this user fee or the waste tax has increased from 10,000 to 40,000. So this is something which we try to generalize, not generalize, but we can come to one conclusion that the segregation of waste by households has increased, composting of the waste has increased, and also responsible consumption from the households pertaining to user fee has also increased. So now coming to the entire purpose of this presentation is to ensure that we are aligning ourselves to the Sustainable Development Goals, which is practiced across the world throughout. And now countries have taken as an obligation to ensure that the Sustainable Development Goals are implemented both in letter and in spirit. So this particular rag pickers and their socioeconomic status and how to improve their livelihoods comes under the ambit of Sustainable Development Goal 8, which talks about the decent work and economic growth. So this particular aspect is fueled by certain stigmas which are present in the society. So when we take it to the Indian context, we have social stigma where the caste, class, religion plays a key role in determining the social status of the rag pickers, who are the context of this particular presentation. Apart from that, we have something called unemployment, which is rampant in the country, where 6.5% of the youth and also the productive age population are still unemployed and they don't have it, and 80% are still under the informal employment, where there is no particular registration or a labor code for these particular employees, because they're not counted per se. And also they live in penury and the poverty, so which again falls under the Sustainable Development Goal 1. So, but still we try to confine our presentation to Sustainable Development Goal 8, where decent work and economic growth should be provided to the rag pickers. So through this presentation, we want to show that it is pertinent to integrate these rag pickers into the formal waste management system. And rag pickers can be a catalyst, and they can also constitute the regulatory framework where they will be involved in this particular waste management ecosystem, and they can bring the particular nudge in the households to ensure that the waste that is generated is properly recycled and it is properly what do you call discarded from the dump sites. So so with this I'll try to conclude my presentation. So we are open for questions. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for just a very informative presentation. And I see how kind of your focus on integrating the rag people into the formal waste management system is in line with SDG 8, so that that kind of it's a pretty good fit, a good platform. One of the things that I didn't understand from the beginning was how do you, as a company, GreenCycle Innovations, what do you see the judges as? Are we the government officials, administrators? Are we whom are you pitching this idea to?
So yes, ma'am. The thing is that the GreenCycle Innovations Limited is a company. It's a corporate. So as a company, we are trying to get into a partnership with the government. So government in India, in particular districts and provinces, is responsible for managing the waste. So as a company, we are trying to collaborate with the government, and we are trying to identify the rag pickers, and we are going to train along with the government officials these particular rag pickers. So now these rag pickers, yeah.
So we are the board. We are this company's board, or a
Yes, we are the
decision maker
company.
of some sort. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the floor is open for questions.
So how would you fund this project? Would it be the government that is funding it in order to pay the rag pickers? Would you be partnering with them where maybe the government subsidizes their income and your company also provide some of the funding? I'm a little unclear on who's paying them and where the money is coming from.
Yes. So the funding aspects we can talk about like this, like where the government will be using its administrative machinery for training. But as a company, GreenCycle Innovation Limited intends to provide the information, education, and communication material, the IEC, and also the trainer of trainers, where our partners who are the non-profits and the civil societies who are adept in particular waste management will be contributing particular in for training these particular rag pickers. The funds, functions, and functionaries would be from the government itself, because the waste management ecosystem is clearly established in India. The only finance or the commercial aspects pertaining to this training is again bore by this particular company, GreenCycle. So GreenCycle enters MOU with the government, and GreenCycle is paid for this particular program. And we try to contribute as part of our corporate social responsibility. So we are particularly GreenCycle Innovations Limited, who are adept in training and capacity building. So what we bring to the forefront is we try to pitch into the government that we have this particular proposal, and government enters into a formal agreement with us saying that, okay, you please try to train these particular Ragpickers, and we try to generate these particular trainings and awareness. And we use the government's funds, functions, and functionaries, the administrative system, which is already prevalent in the districts and the provinces.
Yeah, I have a question in that. What do you view success is after you train a rag picker? What defines success? Is that individual gaining a higher level of income? Is that providing certain things like better housing, sharing in the selling and recycling of the increased recyclables? What do you view success for this program?
So through this program, we intend to bring two outcomes. The first one is about formal integration of these particular Ragpickers into the institutionalized waste collection mechanism. So what we try to show that is that these particular Ragpickers don't have regular income. So through this program, these people are becoming part of the government waste collectors. So now they will be getting a steady income flow of Indian currency 8,500 rupees. So we try to show this that there is a void in this waste collection system. So there are less number of players who are working here. So we are trying to bring them into the mainstream employment. First is sustainable income generation. The second is the entire gamut of the waste generation. We are trying to reduce the quantum of waste that is being generated. That is done through the waste segregation from the source itself, where we are trying to eliminate the dry waste and wet waste, enhance the more composting aspect. So we are trying to use the waste for compost, and which can be used as a manure and into the agricultural fields. So we are trying to reduce, reuse, and recycle this waste. And third is we are trying to bring EPR concept, which is now prevalent in India, where the waste or the plastic, which is non-saleable, is again sent and sold through these particular Ragpickers, so that it is sent to recycling mechanisms where the particular waste is again used in other properties or in other form. So the second aspect is, first is the income generation, second is efficient waste management system. So these two things. So this is a win-win situation for both Ragpickers as well as for the government itself, which is focusing on reducing the waste in its provinces.
Okay, and a quick follow-up then, is there any mechanism to reward, I guess, the better workers? Is there a way that the increased amount of revenue that's received from increased recycling, is there a mechanism to provide more than the 8,500 as an incentive for harder, more effective work by these rag pickers?
Yes, to be very straightforward, I wish to say that we have uniformity across all the levels, but yes, there are some incentives which we didn't show here in this presentation, but we intend to bring to the forefront, that we apply the principles of gamification, where we try to call them as the Swachhagrahis, or the best performing waste collectors, and we try to reward them with the medals and also the letter of appreciation and also supplementing it with certain a token of appreciation in terms of cash, or providing certain incentives for their children, by bringing them into like formal education system. But again, since this is an informal economy, we try to maintain parity because again, there is something called a labor union, which is again a big issue in developing countries like India. So we want to initially start with parity, where uniformity is maintained for all the rack pickers. Then whosoever is performing well, definitely they will be given proper incentives and also appreciation. But if they are able to recycle the waste, and if they are able to generate income even to the panchayat by selling the particular waste. So whatever waste is being generated, it is being sold and the income is generated. Based on that, we try to incentivize.
Thank you.
Could you actually elaborate a little bit more on the gamification? Because as you mentioned, initially having a steady rate that everyone's paid the same, it wouldn't incentivize families to encourage their children to help out. But if you then have a tiered gamification, a lot of times more impoverished families will want their kids to help out in order to hit those higher tiers in a gamified system. How would you dissuade families from encouraging their children to help out and instead go to school where they wouldn't be earning any income?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, what we try to show here is this is a pilot program. So generally, once we find, we already found that this is successful. So now we try to implement this gamification principle once we scale it up to the entire state. So when we are doing it to one particular small province or a district, the initial success will be only seen from the metrics of waste management. So, and also how the particular employees, how the particular rack pickers are integrated into the economy. Second of all, like once we try to scale it up, we try to bring the practice of gamification to encourage the rack pickers to join this particular program. So the idea is these are fragmented workers. They are not interested in this formal economy because they find that these government rules are compulsive, and collecting the waste is their what do you call it, becomes a duty to them. So once we try to scale this particular program, post success of this particular pilot, these gamification principles can be adopted, where we try to show that if you are integrated into this formal waste collection system, your children will be going to the schools, and they are living in a very what do you call vulnerable situation. So they will be given education. The social economic status will be improved. Likewise, we try to bring the competition among the rack pickers. So the idea of gamification principles is for a common cause, for a common response, for a common purpose. We are trying to aggregate these particular rack pickers, try to induce a healthy competition among them, like who is collecting the waste and who is trying to recycle this particular waste, and who are contributing as catalysts for waste generation. Based on these indicators, we'll try to provide incentives, and we try to build that competition, and we try to conduct the training programs. The training programs are also informally part of this gamification, where you try to tell them about the effective waste management through composting, how to do this, recycle this particular waste, and what are the safe practices for collection of waste, for the disposal of waste, and also giving them the safety kits for the waste collectors. So all these aspects we try to bring it in part of this particular program.
Okay.
I think Yogesh also had a point to make. Yogesh, if you can.
I'm sorry, who was that?
I
No,
think Yogesh.
it got covered. It got covered.
Okay. All right. Well, we have, I think we have had all of our formal questions, and now I would like to, for the judges, to give you some feedback on your presentation skill as well as the presentation material. And I'm going to start by saying you did good, even though we had some technical difficulties at the beginning. And this is not a criticism, but usually when I see 4, 5, 6 people who are part of a team, I usually want to hear from everyone, whether it is during the formal presentation or when one is answering questions. So I would like for you, for future presentations, to be cognizant of that. As well, one of my pet peeves is the use of acronyms. So especially in a presentation format, I think anytime that you're using an acronym, it's so much better to say what that means. Just consider us that we don't know the subject as well as you do. So it's very helpful to provide that extra information for the panel you're giving this presentation to. But otherwise, it was very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any judges, any comments on the presentation, the style, material?
I think generally you guys did an excellent job. I would have liked to have seen some more financial projections. Just really spell it out a little more. Where's the money for the programming coming from? How is it going to be divvied up and spent and allocated? I just would have liked to have seen that a little more and broken down over a timeline, over a horizon. You know, where are you now? Where do you see yourself 5-10 years? How would a business be growing? How are you expected to turn a profit? But otherwise, great job.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to, Lauren.
Yeah. Hi. Overall, I thought good as well. I would have liked to have known a little bit more about the life of the Ragpickers now and what is their life now that we would want to create this program for them. As someone who is totally unknowledgeable, I admit, like I have no knowledge of India, of your culture, of your life. I just would have liked to have known a little bit more about that to just give me a better understanding of why is this program even needed. But aside from that, I thought you guys did a great job. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Lynn, did you give your comment?
No, I agree with Michelle. A little bit more information on the costs that have been expended to date and the projections going forward. And also what you had indicated at the beginning of your comments, it would have been nice to hear from each of the team members.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much to the team. I know this has been a lot of work to put the presentation together, a lot of information. We certainly, all of us, have learned something new. So I'm very appreciative of that. And again, thank you to the judges for your participation. It's invaluable. So thanks again. And let me see, is there going to be a final comment from Jennifer, or can we just leave the presentation room?
I think Timothy has a comment.
Oh, yeah. Timothy, I didn't see you.
I'm sorry. I should have jumped in. I know better than I should have asserted myself. One of the things that I would say is, I have served in quite a few places around the world that are undeveloped or developing. And one of the things that I think that would be a good thing for you to look at with your program is to have some solid goals for your high performers. Things like for our top 10%, we will send your children to the local established education system, or that we will use some of the recycled plastics to construct homes using some of the newer designs that they have, where they can essentially like put bricks together to make homes for them. Things that actually show a true improvement in life. So I would just say is expand your overall goals. While they're great as they are now, look in the future to expand them to make, in fact, a true impact on the lives of the Ragpickers as part of your program. Thank you.
And thank you, Tim. Just one quick note for the judges. If you could please remember to fill out the judging score sheets. I sent you an email with a link. G is for graduate, UG is for undergrad, and you'll know by the number of this session, which of those that you should fill out. And if you could kindly do that, that'd be great.
Do we email them back to your office, Jeff?
No. If you go to that link and you enter them, then that populates a database, and then I get the comprehensive report.
Okay. All right. Will do.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Take care.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.